probably like see how we do today, and maybe do a couple more days just like this until we're sort of make our way all the way through. The first things first, we have public comment. Lauren, do we have any members of the public comment or people who would like to speak or ask questions?
We have one.
Excellent.
Jack Dobson, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. I'm here to talk about I'm here to talk in support of the representative town meeting style of government for the charter.
Sure. Go ahead.
I think that having a group of people who are elected to do a job to be able to represent the public at a town meeting is more effective, I think, than a general town meeting where you have maybe, I think the amount of electors is 14,000 in Madison, and you only need 75 people to show up. I find it to be, a little bit outdated, and it'd be like having Congress only show up with maybe like 2 or 3 people out of 435. I feel like
depends on the 2 or 3. Sorry.
Yeah. Having the general public and trying to get them to participate, I feel, is like it's a good idea in theory, but I think when you allow something like an open meeting to happen, it sort of allows for special interests to sort of be able to take control of maybe a large budgetary decision. And I feel like, maybe instead of 75 people required for the open town meeting we have now, maybe 75 sounds like a lot of people for an RTM, but maybe it's, a good place to start or something like that. I feel like having an RTM is flexible and sort of, do we only let them vote on something like something like the OLM preparatory academy that we had for the town meeting last February, or I believe it was January, or do we let them sort of vote on more, like, do we allow them to create ordinances like a regular legislative body would? I mean, I feel like in some ways it's a flexible option that allows, in some ways it's less democratic because you're taking away 14,000 people's rights to say and speak up on something, but at the same time that you can say that, at least for the last town meeting, 13,025 people did not decide to show up for their jobs. And I feel like having an RTM sort of balances that out, where you get people who are interested and motivated to run for something while also, being beholden to the people. I don't know, like, once again, it's sort of something the details need to be sort of ironed out, but I think it's a better form of government than something we have now.
Thank you, Jack. Just out of curiosity, have you ever lived in an RTM town?
No, I've lived in Madison my whole life.
Yeah, so me neither. But I was
I have.
curious. That's right. I forgot Bob has. Perfect.
Well, no, I think this
go ahead.
will receive a real solid look from this charter group. I think it's gone in with no a priori assumptions of what form might make the most sense.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jack. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Please come again.
All right.
Lauren, do we have anyone else who would like to speak or ask questions?
That was it.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's, I think, one of the things I'd like to talk about. Let's see how far we get in this one. But, at the end of this meeting, and let's not leave beforehand, I'd like to talk about what we want to do for the sort of lay out our schedule for the next couple of meetings for both, how we do things and looking at Joan's little Zoom box and when. So we'll work those pieces out. Lauren, why don't we continue, if you wouldn't mind, with sharing the screen? Is this the same document we had before? I know Ira just sent you stuff. I didn't know if you had a chance to integrate them or.
Really quickly, can we just get a quick approval of the prior minutes?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
Any thoughts on the minutes, comments or corrections?
I make a motion, we approve them with one correction.
Yeah, number 4 needed to be removed because it was just a carryover from the last one. But I'll second that motion with the corrections.
Any other corrections or amendments? All in favor of the approving the amended minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimously moved and corrected.
So going back to the document that I sent you all yesterday, I did get a list from Ira. It doesn't have a lot of meat to it, and he's still pulling together research and getting more examples to give to you guys. But he did send us a list of what he felt was the outcome of the meeting that he attended with you last week. So I did incorporate those suggestions and thoughts into the document. So
Okay.
I will get the screen share going.
Thank you, Lauren. That was really speedy.
Yep. Impressive work.
See, so Lauren, if you were one of the 3, we'd be all set with that.
All right, let's see if this works. There we go. Okay. So you guys should see both
2 documents.
documents. Okay. So on the right is the analysis document that has all the comments. I've tried to incorporate what I hope is everything from before you guys started, staff that you've spoken to, boards and commissions who you've spoken to, and then the IRA list. And on the left is the current draft of some changes that you have talked about. So I'll try to keep going between both documents for you. And then that way we'll kind of have a working draft in addition to the document that has all the suggestions and notes.
Is that okay with everybody? That makes sense to me. Okay. So we take it from the top?
Yeah. So we did go over some of this before, but we can start with the preamble if that's what you want, Joe.
Yeah, why not? It's been a little time, and I don't think we got all that far. So the 15-minute bite idea was not the most successful group management technique ever. So why don't we just start at the top? So yeah, if everyone remembers in red, we talked about yanking the home rule statute since it's the general statutes. Why highlight one?
Mm-hmm.
So is that good?
That's good.
Yeah, I kind of like to see if we could just, whenever we not leave a page until we know what we're doing on it, and then just do the next one, and we'll slog our way through. Okay.
Great use of the verb slog.
Sadly, an accurate one, right?
Sure, it's tracking.
Sure, go ahead.
There we go. Okay.
Good. And these are for commission. I don't remember the use of that comment.
So appointed boards and commissions only. Do we have any elected commissions? I don't think we do we?
No.
But so the problem is that we have commissions, committees, and boards that are all appointed, and that's what the whole reference to that is.
We have. So what are our elected boards? Zoning Board of Appeals?
Yeah, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, Board of Education, Zoning Boards of Appeals, and
Board of Assessment Appeals.
Board of Assessment Appeals.
So our only elected bodies are boards?
Yes.
Correct.
And Justice of the Peace, which I know is different, but Justice of the Peace are elected.
Yep.
Huh. You know what? I never realized that.
See, Noreen and I are justices, so you know that.
Oh, well,
It's
yeah.
a hard-fought battle.
I think you should have badges and hats. So do we want to redefine the word commission? Is that the idea? I don't remember the discussion around this one.
what the prior charter committee had done in 2015 is just to add the word appointive after includes. So it would just be the word commission, and this charter includes appointive boards, agencies, authorities, committees, and commissions.
That's fine.
Yeah, that sounds okay to me.
I'd agree with that.
Okay.
All right.
So moving on.
I would hope that we wouldn't need the paragraph on masculine gender should include the feminine. But if we keep it, I would revise it to say, when the context so requires, masculine gender shall include the feminine gender shall include the masculine, and the singular should include the plural, and the plural the singular.
Maybe we could include something along the lines of, when the context, all pronouns shall be understood to refer to any gender.
Mm-hmm.
Just leave it like that.
That might be
Yeah, I would
briefer.
Yeah, let's de-genderize them.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep. Thank you.
Good idea.
Do we need to say any gender or designation?
All genders, any gender. Yep. Or designation.
Yeah, just gonna say any. Yeah, all genders and designations.
Yep.
"10 years from now, they'll look back like, what was that? You know, it should have been used this way. All right, so that sounds fine.
So now we get into the electors versus voters issue. So the last time what we added was the reference to the general statutes, is section 7-6, and just copied verbatim the language.
That sounds. Do we? Wait. Should we, in accordance with? Should we indicate it's the term in accordance with general 7-6, or as modified?
Yeah,
Or
I think, and that's what we were talking about before, is that we need some kind of a tie back to where it is in the general statutes, because there's a lot of confusion about this. You know, from a layperson looking in, I couldn't before tell you the difference between an electorate and a voter. So maybe a tie-in, and as Joe was saying too, and any changes in the future.
Yeah, I think that the statute is actually much clearer than what we had in there, have in there now. And I think, yeah, I think Lauren's right. We just did a copy and paste, and it did clarify it pretty quickly. I don't know if I can get that language up now.
Well, isn't it sitting to our left?
Yeah.
No.
No, that's our current work. That's our current, as we're editing, and I don't think we've edited this piece yet, correct? Left and right are identical right now.
Oh, you're right.
So I really don't understand what's going on here. It looks like there's a property qualification.
Right.
So just real
for
quickly,
voting.
real quickly, there is one difference, and this difference, Joan, makes a big difference. It makes all the difference.
Yeah.
In the left-hand side and the right-hand side, where it starts the term voter, what's different between the two, and this is the copy and paste directly from the state in the left-hand side that is not in the right-hand side.
Okay.
Is it says shall mean electors of the town, and on the right-hand side it says and United States citizens, but on the left-hand side it's or. And this is the difference between what the state has and what the current charter has, is this and versus or.
Or.
It needs to be or, because it needs to be both groups of people, not one group of people that is designated on the right-hand side.
Got it. And the difference is the electors are in any general election can vote. The voters can do not, if they don't live in Madison and are registered in Madison to vote, then they only vote for budgetary items. But they don't vote in municipal and
Correct.
regular
And that'll
elections.
be on the call of whatever the vote is from the town clerk's office. The legal notice will say all electors are hereby notified and warned, or it'll say all voters are hereby notified and warned.
So I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob, please.
No, I'm just saying, so what's this about the grand list and $1,000?
So you have to own some property. You have to own some property of, it can't just be personal property, right? It has
So
to be.
we're excluding the homeless.
It could be a car,
And-
automobile.
Or for budget referendum, yes.
Right.
So
So
Remember-
that-
It's only on the budget referendums and financial referendums.
So any special, what am I talking about? Special, what's the word I
Special
want?
appropriations.
Appropriation. So they could vote on that. Anything to do with the budget and money, correct?
Correct. Anything that is going to produce a tax liability.
And I think that $1,000, I always thought it was tied to someone at least paying car taxes here. Something, I don't know what else besides a house and car and business you pay taxes on.
Let me give a real example. Okay, Melanie and I were married this last November, and this house until very recently was not in both of our names. So I assume I couldn't participate in the town meeting. I wouldn't be allowed in. Correct?
Were you living
isn't
here?
for. Okay,
Yeah, go ahead, John.
But you weren't voting any other place though, right, Bob?
Actually, I changed my registration this year from Northern Virginia to Madison. Otherwise, I would not be permitted to serve on this group.
So if you're a resident, you're an elector, right? And you're a voter. If you're a voter, it's by virtue that you have you're not a resident, but you have interest in property. So we expand the voting pool beyond residents to include those that own significant property. Significant per the charter is $1,000. So
That's actually, that $1,000 is state statute.
So the state statute says $1,000 is enough to give you an interest as a property owner in budgetary items.
And I think we can't be less than the state, correct? We always have to be at least the state. Okay.
Correct.
so what happens is for the budgetary items, the notice goes out to all electors and voters. And for the general elections, it's just to the electors, correct?
Correct.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so it's more inclusive for anybody who is going to be voting on a budget. So my son can vote on the budget, even though he doesn't have $1,000 liability in this town because his car tax is not $1,000.
Okay.
And he's also can vote in the elections because he's an elector. So electors and voters get to vote on the budget, but only electors. Just because I own property in Madison doesn't mean if I haven't registered to vote in Madison, I can't vote in the general elections in Madison.
Yeah, the key is that one word, or versus and, right? So and right now, we really haven't been complying. Changing it to or certainly, Joan, to your point, when my son turns 18, with the or vote, if he lives in Madison but he doesn't own anything, then he'll be an elector. He'll be eligible to vote. The people coming in, a relative who owns a summer house then would be a voter and not necessarily an elector. So electors are a subset of the voter.
Correct.
I can't help but notice the irony that only the electors will actually cast a vote on the voters. So this makes sense to me with the or, not the least of which since we're doing what the statute provides. Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
All right. Then let us slog downward.
Woohoo.
We're into Article 1. I'm so excited.
All right.
Isn't it awful that we're such nerds that we get excited about this?
It is interesting. I know
It's
it's
fun.
Joan, how many hundreds of hours have we spent on things that are not this interesting?
It's true. It's true. Oh, Noreen she's got it hands down on us on the not so interesting stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Well, I made a comment when I first became a selectman many years ago. There was all older men on the board at the time. I said, I don't want just all the girly stuff. I had Water Pollution Control Authority for 11 years. And we were doing our septic lagoons back then. So I definitely paid my dues. Those were fun meetings.
There are so many funny things to say, and all of them are inappropriate.
Good for you
Okay.
for self-editing. Okay.
I've grown older. So 1.1, I assume we're good with that, right? I don't think, I know we had discussion in this area, but I don't think it was there. And 1.2a is just saying we get all the powers we get.
Yep.
B for again not giving the special status to home rule or by Apple. Yeah, I actually don't even understand the thinking there, but that I guess we don't have to. We're removing it.
Yeah, I don't know if 15 years ago that was a thing. It was, important. I really couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it was a big thing a few years ago. We had to keep keeping it in. And I was like, okay, whatever. But they refer to it in statute all the time as home rule, and we're under home rule. So whatever.
Well, in theory, we could not be. Right, in order to trigger the home rule provision, we have to adopt the charter. So maybe that was the original thinking.
There you go.
I think that's right. C or D?
Looks good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No issues here.
Excellent. Article 2 then.
So Article 2 we highlighted because we had some questions on form of government. What is a legislative branch? And I think Ira spoke to those at the last meeting. So I'm hoping that he's resolved any kind of internal conflict we had about what is a legislative branch, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I thought
I'm not so sure.
So
Anyway.
what I heard from Ira was two things. One, the sort of unsatisfying, that's what the statutes say.
Right.
And they did, and I can't pull the section from memory, but we did have the definition of the legislative body that referred to the town meeting. And then there was the second part that the reality is that while the other side may be, I think, Bob, your point on the effective legislators, that the town meeting has final say-so on lots of things that are inherently legislative, and we can get out and legislate if we could get 75 people to show up. I think, does anyone remember Ira's description differently than that? That's how I recall it.
Right. And I think one of the things he really thought of was trying to focus on narrowing the scope on what has to happen for a town meeting and making the town meeting event a bigger event so that maybe we get more people to it, so to speak.
But that assumes that we're going to keep the town meeting form. Not go to a representative town meeting or something else.
So Bob, that's a good point. My suggestion is to still track this document from the top to the bottom, and then because it's a chicken and egg thing, and then go into the what I think are the longer discussions on RTMs and town managers. But and frankly, I had been anticipating that we could leave some alternative form in the charter as an addition. And I thought that got shot down pretty decisively last time to say, no, you'd have to redo the charter. So you're asking a good question, but my feeling is I feel that going through this, because it's staffed, even if we end up making a fundamental change, we'll know the issues. So I'll do whatever you guys want, of course.
Well, I would change the title of Article 2 to Town Meeting.
So, from my notes,
Too.
just to confirm what Joe was saying, from my notes, when Bob, when you would ask that question,
Yeah.
Ira and Pete said that they, that it is state statute and that they advised us to make sure we have a tie-in with a state statute.
Right.
So I don't think we could change that.
I didn't hear that at all.
I think Bob, you're talking just about the article, not the title of the town meeting within subsection 2.1, but
No,
you
I'm
mean
just
the
talking about
title of Article
the
2.
section.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the title of Article 2, form of government legislative
Yeah.
branch.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
just call it town meeting because that's all we talk about in it in the current form. So that would make it easier for the reader to see, okay, when I want to read about the town meeting,
Yeah,
and we don't have to get into whether it's the legislative branch realistically or not.
I don't see it that way. I see for, the title, form of government, legislative branch, and then you go to section 2.1, town meeting.
But why do we want to have a title that's misleading? Then we don't have to.
But it is, so we have, because there's also an executive branch designation in Article 4. So I think that maybe they were trying to keep it so that, okay, here's the executive branch and here's the legislative branch. You need to say we don't have a judicial branch. But I think it was at the time probably tying in with language that people are kind of used to, which is, okay, I understand what a legislative branch is. And so, we don't have a Congress, we do it through a town meeting.
So if I could suggest, I mean, if we said form of government, town meeting, comma, legislative branch, so that we had the word town meeting in it. Because I see the point, because it's there. I only have one question, and I don't know the answer to it. Is it clear that 2.1.4.2, the annual budget reconciliation meeting, is a town meeting? And to be perfectly
1.43?
2.1.4.2.
Yeah, the annual budget reconciliation meeting. I don't remember that be. I'm a little embarrassed that I don't recall the form. I don't know that it is a town meeting. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Lauren.
So what this is every June we hold a specific annual budget reconciliation town meeting that allows for the approval of all appropriations and line items that are above budget thresholds that are currently in process. So basically, it's the end of the year. Fix all of your budgets, line items, and requests before the fiscal year closes.
Yeah, I just didn't recall that as a town meeting. So I guess it is. I guess to the comments, it's a special town meeting.
Correct. I mean, essentially, yeah. We call it's kind of a catch-all, and basically what it is every year is approving the police department overtime. So it's still has to, yeah.
So is there anything that we talk about in here that isn't a town meeting, to Bob's point? Or relevant to it?
No, everything is I think you say form of government, town meeting - legislative branch.
Yeah, I think that would be both clearer and probably make, somewhere Ira gets his wings.
Yep.
Does that work for you, Bob?
Except for the legislative branch, but it's not the most important thing in the world. Let's move ahead.
Okay, so let's add the words town meeting into that title, and maybe later we'll see if we're doing it in the way that's clear enough.
Okay.
Okay, so if that's all right with everyone, we're right down to 2.1.1, which is the exciting. I think we're hitting our first policy question. 75. So if everyone would pick a number, 1 to 400, we'll put them in anonymously. It's probably worth getting everyone's thoughts. I mean, because we have heard different opinions on this. I wonder if we shouldn't just kind of go up and down and sort of let us know where each of us has our original thinking sort of on this. I mean, if that's okay. I mean, my feeling is 75 feels just way too low. And I like the idea of saying town meetings should be big deals and they should come for things that matter. And you don't want to have very big legislative decisions made by very small interested groups. But there's a problem with that
That's what
too.
Madison said, by the way. Exactly.
I think I'm sure I have
You're
my Federalist
quoting
papers
Madison, Joe.
near me, handy. Why don't we? So on the top of my screen, Noreen, you're first. What do you think about the number?
I was just trying to think of when we changed it last time. Did we bring it up or did we bring it down?
I mean,
was it higher
between
or-
2001 and now?
I remember when we changed that number. I just can't remember if we came up or went down. Did you know what the number was prior to the 75?
I can look.
And Joe, as far as going up, on one side, of course, because it should be some sort of percentage of the town. I'm sure that 75 was based on something. But if we're not getting 75 people there now, if we can do it through using Zoom now, that definitely could change.
Mhm.
Matt, do you want to give us the benefit of your initial thinking?
Yeah, initial thinking, I think it's low. I mean, for the total population of the town, that 75 seems low. I guess I'm torn because we hardly ever reach 75 as it is. I mean,
Right.
So that's the thing. But I think to be representative of to see a true sample size, I guess, of the town, I would probably double that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Joan, what are you thinking?
Last time we went back and forth on this and everybody thought 75 was too low, and I have to absolutely agree. I think the 150 would be great. What that does though is, for the most part, if you can't get people excited or get them to the town meeting, everything's gonna automatically pass then. So what are we trying to do? If we're trying to get people to the town meetings, then, like I said, I think we need to look at all of the listing of the town meetings and go from there.
And I'm sorry,
as to-
Joan, I didn't hear your last sentence. You dropped off.
Oh, sorry. If we're going to try to get more people to this, we may want to look and see what we're requiring a town meeting for. Like, does the annual reconciliation need to be a town meeting? Probably not. Does so there's certain things we could sit there and say, if we cut this and we cut that and we cut that, we have a better shot at having people show up for an annual town meeting. If we have one meeting, to then kind of lay out what it is that we're planning on doing in the next year. Here are the things we want you to vote on to move forward, that kind of thought process. So I have no problem upping this to 150. But whatever's recommended by the executive branch shall be final. So, or financial. So.
Dave, what are you thinking?
I mean, I agree. 75 sounds really low, but again, over the past decade, how many town meetings exceeded that 75 mark? So, it wouldn't be right, I don't think, to lower it, certainly, because then you could easily usurp all the decision making, if you get a small group of people together. But by the same token, 75 or 150 or 1,000, if we're not hitting 75, then unless we change something else, the actual number is irrelevant.
Right.
That's just my initial thought.
I agree with you. Bob, what are you thinking?
Well, my real thought right now is I would have a representative town meeting with about 70, 75 elected representatives with a quorum of like 65. If we don't do that, I would think a larger number makes more sense. 150 perhaps. That's around 1%.
I think Matt was the first one that brought up 150, just so you know, Lauren, prior to me.
Oh,
Liz,
One of
what
the-
do you? I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. Just one of the things we want to consider too, if while I'm thinking of it, I don't want it to go out of the brain. You talked about representative form of government. If that's the case, then I would really think we should invite Amy Stefanowski as chair of the RTC, and I'll put on my BTC hat to speak to what challenges would be to get 75 people every 2 years elected. So I think that would be something that we would want to go to the town committees on, because they're the ones who are organizing and ensuring that these elections and the people do get elected. So I want to throw that out there for, what our numbers could be.
So going back to the 75 for the town meeting number, Liz, what do you think?
Yeah, so listening to other people who've come and spoken to us, a variety of them, the question kind of comes back up again regarding, are people happy with how the town's being run? They only show up to meetings where something's happening that they don't want to have happen. And so I guess it kind of falls back to, what is it that we're trying to achieve by changing this number? And when I think about kind of overall, what is the goal of what, town government's trying to achieve, is, are the people happy with the people that they have in the town government? And are they doing the things that they want done, so to speak? So again, to me, it's more about what we're trying to achieve versus saying we want 75 at a meeting or 150. You want the people to be pleased with what's going on in the town. And I heard through a number of people saying the reason people don't show up is because they're happy with how the town's being run. So, I'm not a big fan of doing things to say we changed it or we did it unless we genuinely feel upping it to 150 is going to impact and make it better of how the town's being run, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Joe, could I just add to what Liz just said? Maybe I don't mean charter, but people have to understand, no one person puts up a request for a special appropriation or whatever, or a new project or something. This goes through our elected boards. So depending on what it is, you've got anywhere from 11 to 20 people that have to work out and present this, and it's not just the first selectman or the head of the board of ed or head of board of finance. These are their boards working together. People, as Liz said, we've elected that come. So I think when to hit 75 is something you really don't want, you will get 75 people. I mean, when that president, I know it wasn't a town meeting, but when the presentation went up about condominiums at Academy, there were 250 people there.
Right.
And, I know in past years, I remember we wanted to put the electric lines underneath Wall Street. We had more than enough people out there. It was expensive. It was $800,000 to do it. And the room was filled.
Yep.
So if it's something that people are opposed to,
Right.
they'll be there.
So if I could though, one of the questions, and I think this goes to Dave's point, what's a quorum? So I become very, I'm still concerned that 75 is an itty bitty number. I think if you're really motivated, you could bring 75 people in for a town and you can suddenly run a town of, 18,500 people. But I wonder if we shouldn't think about this in context of quorum. So assuming that we can all, run around maskless and sit in Polson again, should quorum include electronic participation always? And if
Yes.
so, are we more comfortable increasing it because we've made it easier to attend? And I'll tell you, it sounds like a small thing, but as a longtime purveyor of those meetings, Polson is cold, it rains, the meetings are invariably around dinner time, it's dark, and people don't want to hang out there for very long. And I know that sounds very petty, but I think there's a lot of people, particularly people with young kids, who would happily sit there on Zoom in their kitchen, while they're making mac and cheese, and as opposed to coming out that night. So if we made quorum in person or and electronic and verified electronic, Lauren, we'd have to work some magic out with the language. Then I become, pretty much a fan of increasing the number.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Out of curiosity, electronically, how is it verified? I know we've done it before, but I'm just curious as to how
When-
those.
When you
Lauren
come in-
Rhines, would you care to tell us how you verified the last meeting?
She may have jumped off.
I'm just
Okay.
muted because let's see. So the verification electronically is very similar to the verification that's in person. So we had to keep everybody in a Zoom waiting room and then move everyone in one at a time. And they had to present their license next to their face, basically, to the camera. And then the registrars confirm that they were who they said they were, that they are registered to vote, or that they are on the tax list. And then they were moved to another waiting room while we checked everyone else in one at a time.
Which isn't, a whole lot different than you wait in line, you drop your license, and you get checked in
Yeah.
at Polson.
Yeah.
Now, a real question that if we want to go this way that we'll need to ask is, what does it mean to participate electronically if we're also in Polson?
Mhm.
And I'd like to make sure we're not charterizing something we can't follow through on.
Yeah.
But I have to believe we can work that out. I mean, it's cameras and a couple of laptops.
I think everybody's going to be looking at that. I mean, it just seems like the world has changed forever. So I think you're going to find there are going to be new capabilities that we don't even know right now. I know at least a lot of companies are even looking at hybrids and what that looks like. So a lot of people are working on this, and I would just venture to say that in the next couple of months, you're going to see very creative ways of hybrid meetings where people can participate both electronically and in person, and they'll be effective. But I just wanted to go back to, I think it's marrying too that desire to want to come out or to participate, which, I think, Joan, you touched on is, what is it, or do we look at how many meetings and making one that's more appealing, that includes things that would drive people to come out or participate. And then you're always going to have the ones that people are going to want to engage in, that are the, like the academy and the condos and that type of thing. So.
Mhm. And, the other thing is, Joe was talking about in the dark of winter, and then you get the light of spring, and quite honestly, no one wants to go into an auditorium. But if they were able to hang out and watch their kids play soccer, if they're in second grade, and be able to be on a call or listen to things and be able to vote, then, we may get more adaptive. I mean, I think this is completely correct. There's got to be at least, I would assume, a dozen firms working on how to be able to do this effectively so that they can sell it to municipalities and state governments.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, it seems to me that one reason, at least some of us having trouble with the number question, is I don't understand what exactly is the purpose of the town meeting. I mean, what are we trying to accomplish at these meetings? It seems to me, it's pointed out, you only time people show up is if there's some sort of hot button issue. The thought that you're going to have what kind of deliberation at the town meeting isn't clear to me. So I think that's kind of a question. It seems that what we really have is a public hearing to look at the budget.
So the town meetings, there are deliberations. So what happens is there's a presentation on what is being voted on in detail. So for instance, senior tax relief, there was one question, do you want to vote yes or no on the senior tax? But there was a full presentation on what that meant, the levels and things like that, so that people could go in and vote yes or no, up or down on those. So usually and people were allowed to speak, and correct me if I'm wrong. And then once everybody's said their piece, then the vote goes on. Many times there's not many people there, but when there are people there, it's actually quite a robust group.
Yeah. And they ask questions and they can put forth ideas and proposals back to the selectmen, but it also means the populace can stop something. So let's assume for a second at one of those budget reconciliations, I wanted to take, a line item that said pension and put it into, first selectman bonus. They think, oh, there'd be a million reasons with that. Ultimately, if you had 3 selectmen going along and some of the Board of Finance, you could get it there and it'd be up to the town meeting to say, knock it off. And so there is a function. And less spurious examples. We've had times where we've had expenses run high. We've had expenses run high in legal fees and other areas, and people will come out and they will ask questions like, why is this running high? Why are we here? And we've had town meetings on those topics. Someone who passed away recently, Jack Davis, I remember him at those meetings. He used to come and say and talk about the importance of, comity and things in trying to ask the questions. And why was he doing that? Because people were excited and they wanted to engage on it. And there were policy things. So I maybe a principle, we've talked about the number, but maybe if our principle is, a bigger number but easier access, that feels right to me. I don't know that I can fine tune the number. 150 sounds pretty good to me. A quorum in person and online feels good to me. Like that seems like we're trying to do something. We are going to open up access, but we're going to make, you open up access, you might start getting 150 a lot, and you'd like to make sure the number that you can get is big enough so that it really does represent a town meeting. Not the reverse of, Bob, what you're concerned about, which is it's just the selectmen in charge, as opposed to it's the 150 people with fast internet access that are in charge. You'd like to make sure it's a good number. But is that principle make sense? Bigger number, easier access. Is that a direction the commission's happy with? And then we can figure out what it means. I'm sorry, Noreen, you actually use the electronic hand thing.
I don't use it enough. I know. No, I started off by saying that I totally agree. I don't think we could ever go back. I can't imagine. As Liz said, something's going to be totally different in the next 24 months, but we'll never go back to where we were. And I think we were having such a problem with this younger generation showing up for meetings. The Board of Ed budget presentation when my kids were in school was huge. It was big. Everybody, the room was packed. That hasn't happened in decades. But I think we opened this up to hybrid, which I think we have to. We should raise the number. I agree with you. I don't know if it's 150, that's fine, but I think it should be more, a greater percentage of residents.
Go ahead, Joan.
And I think that's going to allow us, people have talked about a small group of people hijacking a particular thing. And I think if you do raise it, 75 to 100, that's a bigger number. 150 people is to get them to agree on one thing, maybe a lot more difficult as far as attempting to do a real tough change, so to speak.
Okay. So would it be all right then, just moving along from this section, if we, maybe Lauren in the notes will make it clear that it's, tentatively 150, and we'll need to refine the language. I mean, maybe we can just flag some of these issues for Ira. But I also don't want to, spend a lot of Ira bill. But she'll constitute a quorum electronic, both electronic and in person. And we will need we do want a lawyer vet that.
Well, and then we don't want to be in a public meeting explaining how we spent all this money either. So
yeah, so why don't we sort of collect the issues and see if we can be efficient that way.
Yeah, I have one question for Bob. Bob, you mentioned an RTM being 70 to 75 elected representatives. That seems really high. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily need to be that many, right? I mean, we could make it whatever we want, right? Or is there some state statute that has a minimum?
Okay, I'm no expert, and I've been too lazy to do some research. I did look a little bit at my hometown, which is in this state, and they have a representative town meeting of 222 people, I think is the number. In the last meeting, 220 of them showed up. So they have subcommittees and that sort of thing. But that's a larger place, but it's also very similar to Madison in many ways.
What's the population?
Culturally. Oh, Gad, I think it's, I looked 60,000 maybe.
Okay,
Something
so
like that.
yeah, so that's a
So it's 3.5
significantly
times.
higher.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But to what extent that is a reason to do it or not do it, I'm not certain. They have like 8 electoral districts, so it's not every neighborhood. But that one one runs in.
I guess I'm wondering if we were doing this charter review for a group like that, would we then be saying, hey, do we need the electors if we can get people to appear? Like, I don't know. I'm somewhat, smitten by this idea of doing maximum convenience and then seeing what we get. Noreen, is your hand still up or is it up again?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't put it down. Sorry about that.
No problem. So for the time being, are we good with, tentatively 150 and quorum to be electronic, and we'll work with the verbiage later?
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone have concerns with that?
Yeah, I just like to I'd like to get some input from I don't know who, but I'm curious if we raise it to 150 and we open it up electronically. I'm still curious as to how many people would actually attend. Because one of the other charges that we have is to try to increase the participation of the town, and I mean if people are if there are a lot of people willing to attend electronically, that's awesome. I just don't have any knowledge. I don't know what the estimated numbers would be, but I think that's definitely something we should look into. If people aren't interested in attending electronically either, then raising it, I think, is has no real value.
I think it was P&Z that was talking to us, and didn't they talk about their numbers at their meetings? Was it that the group that was talking about their numbers are like 5 times what they ever were before, because of the Zoom meetings? I don't know what other examples we have, Lauren, but I do remember, I thought it was P&Z.
Yeah, P&Z, actually, it's funny because I talked to Dave about this today. P&Z has definitely seen a huge increase in public participation at their monthly meetings online when they're on Zoom. The Board of Selectmen has seen a slight increase as well, but I will say that in the past, big ticket items on the Board of Selectmen agenda have drawn a crowd. So we've had the floodplain ordinance. If you guys are following Board of Selectmen work right now, the floodplain ordinance is it's a very sensitive topic among residents and the board. And so that's drawn out a lot of people, but if we were in person, we may have had similar numbers. That being said, we've had one town meeting that was on Zoom, and that brought out a significant number of people. We had well over a quorum of people in the waiting room waiting to get into the meeting, and it just took so long that we didn't get everybody in. But in total, we had over 100 people who tried to access that one town meeting online that we have had.
Lauren, was there anything, what was the significant things being voted on that night? I don't remember anything being a hot topic.
That was, it was the OLM lease.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember one time years ago, and the more I think about it, I think that number must have been lower than 75. That's what I'm thinking.
It was 50, Noreen, wasn't it?
I think you're, I remember going, and I think the more I think about it, I think you're right. But we had a meeting, a special meeting over special appropriation, and there was a group in town, an education parents called Time. And they were upset with something that was happening with the Board of Ed. So they decided en masse they would show up at a town meeting, and they voted down a communication system for the police department. Remember that? Yes. So it got voted down. By the time we came back and redid the whole thing, it cost us $100,000 more. And the group felt terrible, but they just were trying to show the power of a town meeting, and they were, upset about something totally unrelated. I think that made us to start thinking maybe we need a little higher number here. But I think with Zoom, we have to change that number.
Yeah, maybe 150 is too low. I mean, but why don't I think if we're good, at least for now, with the principle of increasing and then going electronic, and I want to keep, Dave's point to find, maybe put our asterisks by it and try and find some way to vet it if there's any vetting. Could be this is all there is, but to my mind, just even opening it to electronic, I feel like we will have done something quite significant.
I think so.
Sure. Are we good to go to 2.1.2? And why don't I do a time check? I do want to leave time to talk about scheduling the next couple of weeks. It's currently 6 o'clock. Is the group good going for another 15 minutes or so and then talking about scheduling and then adjourning? Does that work with everyone's schedule?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Publication. Somewhere I feel, Nancy's
Oh my God.
Nancy in the ether. Yeah. What on earth can we do about this? Noreen, you're the former representative. Is there any way to get out of the newspaper publication? It feels so Byzantine.
In the notes, it says 5 days. So that's at least state chapter 99.
Yeah.
So we could reduce it to 5 days. Because
Right, so we can be more restrictive than the state, but we can't be less restrictive. So the state still says 5 days in the newspaper. We have to at least adhere to that.
Then, for my feeling, I think we should just do the bare minimum on it, as long as we're including the should we if we talk about the town website, should we do anything else? Should we say town website and any additional online communication? I mean, is there any burden to place on the town to publicize it?
I think so. I honestly do. I would like to see newspaper because we have to. I like to see town website because some people go to that, and then I wouldn't want to name off social media by name because that's probably going to change, depending on the flavor. But something that does say on some, with that spirit in mind, that it's out there, because that's how a lot of younger people are consuming their information now. And that's where they get their news from.
Can we say in any relevant social media? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that would make sense.
I suppose in a perfect world, we'd ask the selectmen to adopt annually a communication plan and have them follow it, but that may be a little bit too micromanagey. But yeah, maybe and other media as appropriate. I mean, we kind of have to leave the burden for them to look at it, but the discretion for them to change it, because Matt's right. What would we possibly write 10 years ago? We said, and put it on MySpace.
And you want to take out that second and, so circulation in the town, and cut that and out of there on the town website and other. There we go. Little grammar.
This may be semantics also, but it doesn't specify the printed hard copy version of the newspaper. So if the source has the website and the printed version, it doesn't necessarily say that it has to be in the printed version, does it? I mean, does newspaper imply the printed version, or
anything you're going to put in Zip 06, they're going to publish, though, for the most part, the electronic form.
I think that's a state requirement, Joan, I think, isn't it? As far as the budget, and really the newspaper lobbyists have fought so hard to keep that. I don't think we have to publish quite as much detail, but that's something that comes up every year. But I think we're required to, I know we are, in print with the budget.
Hey guys, have you ever looked at 7.3? It's actually spectacular. Like, notice of a town meeting shall be given by posting upon signpost or other exterior place near the office of the town clerk, and at such place or places as may be designated here pre-of, a printed or written warning signed by the selectmen, publishing like warning in a newspaper in such town having a circulation thereof. Maybe it's defined elsewhere. I mean, the statute's kind of a mess.
Joe, only a law school prof would get excited by.
Well, I like the idea that we need to buy more posts and signs to nail up the town meeting. I think we should get Nancy a bell and a hear ye.
The funny thing is that there used to be postings in front of the post office, that one that the chamber now runs there's an area where you can put up a notice and put it behind a piece of glass, and it's right in front of the post office. The kiosk, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and we do put physical postings. There is a special bulletin board in town campus that we post everything to, because that's what the statute tells us we have to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I've actually put the some of just even more language. I mean, it's quite a long section. We can, by charter, designate how we would like to do this. I mean, my feeling is we should just, I like where I think what Matt was saying, go put it on a website as appropriate.
Yeah.
And everything else just stick to the charter.
I mean, because if we're being clear, section 7.3, like, no matter what we put here, the town has to follow section 7.3. So we almost really just have to differentiate what we're doing above and beyond state statute section 7-3.
Well, if I read the section that I copied into the chat correctly, or at such place or places as may be designated by special charter provisions, a written or printed warning sign by the mayor or clerk in the case of a city, or by the warden, blah, 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 and by publishing them in the newspaper. It sounds like really all we're doing by saying, and other social media as, appropriate by the, as designated by the Board of Selectmen. Maybe that's the easiest way to do it. That's kind of it. Like, follow 7.3 and take the section.
Do we want to note several 3, or just once again keep general statutes again here? I like just not, because that could change. 7.3 could become.
Well, my only concern would be that notice provisions are ubiquitous, and we mean this one. So we could say 7.3 as designated in the Connecticut General Statutes as of 2021, and then if they renumber them, we'll follow it, or if they amend it. And I suppose if they amend it in some way that's impossible for Madison, we can call a short charter commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we all right with the idea of and other social media as designated by the Board of Selectmen?
I am. I'm fine.
Yes.
Yeah, let's not be too prescriptive. Makes sense.
Though we do have a request to be prescriptive in 2.1.3. If you recall the last public hearing with the 75 people, the attendance, I believe, was due to the efforts of the town moderator. I felt that was the big draw.
Who could that be?
Who could have that been?
I can't quite recall, but I think that was the issue.
Some celebrity, probably.
Yeah, exactly. But the request was made to try and come up with a better mechanic of this, because I actually until the selectman called me, I hadn't realized that when Ron was busy, this suddenly became an issue. If I recall it correctly, there are 2 problems with the moderator the way we're doing it. One, they have to scramble to find one. And then the second one is, in theory, again, going to that idea of a small group taking over the town, they could reject the moderator and install their own. And who knows if that person would actually follow the procedure. So the recommendation is to advance a slate of moderators to be elected to serve for 2-year terms. Was the suggestion.
Are they elected, or are they going to be appointed?
It's funny. I think it was brought up as being elected, and maybe that's silly. Maybe we should just say the Board of Selectmen should appoint moderators, a slate of moderators every January.
Yeah, I think that would be good. And then who's ever available can be the moderator. And I don't think you need to vote on putting the moderator in unless there's something in Robert's rules that require it.
No, as long as they're pre-selected. I'm saying that with greater authority. That's only because I had that's what Nancy was saying.
So I just say,
Go ahead.
Well, just so as somebody that doesn't do politics, I as somebody that doesn't do politics, I have no idea what a moderator is. So should we have more of a description here, like what that entails, what the responsibilities are, what the procedure would be, or is it just assumed, or is there a tie-in to some other document?
I think it's a Robert's Rules thing. I don't know if it's defined by statute for a town moderator. But in every meeting I've gone to, the town moderator is literally, because it's at a public hearing, you don't want the first selectman controlling the conduct of the meeting for their own initiative. The moderator is supposed to be a neutral, just to run the meeting and to call on people. And
Does the moderator have to have special training, or is there program? Or is it just someone that knows how to run a meeting? Is there any requirement?
If I recall our last, and again I say spectacular meeting, there was no particular special training, but I think it's just running the meeting. You know, Nancy gave a little cheat sheet. I'm sure it's the same one Ron Clark from Planning and Zoning that came to this group moderates a lot of these things, and I think Gus Horvath has done a bunch of them. You know, you get a couple of people that know how to run a meeting and probably are okay dealing with a crowd.
We do actually have a moderator handbook.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's from Gus's time as being first selectman, so before some of us on this meeting were born. So
don't rub it in.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Lauren. I'm curious though about the question: is moderator? Oh, look, appointment of moderators. How cool is that?
I just did there's something that came out of Needham, Mass. That's pretty cool. What are Robert's rules, procedures? Why are they important? Who can participate in a town meeting? Wow.
If we look at Connecticut General Statute 9-229, that seems to Electors General Assembly. Let me see if I can pull it up. That's what came up on on my asking the Google. And appointment of moderators, 9-229. Go figure.
Look at you.
Oh, this is the best meeting ever.
He's getting Joe, you need to take your meds. I mean,
Why? Then I'm not as funny.
But let's be honest here.
So maybe Lauren, if we could give you the assignment to take 9-229 over to Nancy and make sure that that's the moderator we've got, and because maybe we can just because I think Matt's point's a good one, right? It'd be nice to tell whoever's doing it what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And it looks like it's defined in here, though it's kind of a long thing, and I haven't.
You're not supposed to be a proponent of any particular point of view, but to facilitate civil discourse at the meeting.
Yeah. So, yeah, for the purpose of providing a reserve group of persons who may serve as moderators. Actually, it's right here. The registrar. Actually, I may have. I think I'm in the wrong section entirely. No, this is. I think these are moderators within election. It's the wrong.
Yeah,
it's the wrong section.
That's
entirely.
the wrong section.
Yeah, it's section 9.
Okay, so
all right. So,
but
yeah,
these are. But the reason you have a moderator is for the same reason that there's moderators at the municipal elections and regular elections, is kind of overseeing and making sure that everything is being done per the regulations. And so what we need to do is define what is part of a town meeting. And I think in the next few paragraphs, we're going to be looking at that, and that's what the moderator would be following, so to speak.
So could I suggest that they select a slate of 5? And my reasoning is that then the minority representation rules would probably apply. So, because they should be apolitical, but that way,
Joe, can I ask Lauren? Lauren,
please.
Who finds the moderator? Do you or Nancy?
I do.
You do? Because I was wondering if it was Nancy, I was going to say, why don't we ask her what exactly this should say, because she's the one that sort of trains them a little bit. Anyway, I don't have a problem with your suggestion, Joe. It's just that why don't we go to have Lauren and Nancy work that out of what that should say.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, because it was Nancy who first flagged the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at what moderators are governed by, and then we should be able to put that information in. But I like, 5 town moderators appointed for 2 years so that there's a pool to grab.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, it is 6:15. Are we good to do one more, or do you want to go into scheduling?
And I say that maybe we look at all the types of town meetings together, so with the thought of trying to narrow the amount of town meetings we're putting in the charter. So this might be a really good breaking point.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay,
Same here.
that sounds good by me. All right, we've actually approved like language and sections and added a big concept for electronic meetings. So, I feel we should get like, jackets and stuff. So
Yeah.
what do we want to do with our meeting schedule over the next couple of weeks? So,
Let me ask a different question. When do we need to finish?
that's an excellent question. At this rate, 2030.
2022 is, I don't think we're going to get anything in for the November election because there just isn't enough time to do all the hearings we need to do in order to get that done. So we're talking either May of 2022 or November of 2022. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren.
You only have, according to state statute, 18 months from when you are charged to when this has to get to the voters. So no matter what, you only have 18 months to do your work.
So that would bring us to spring of next year.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of time.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
the May referendum would be part of that. Yep. Because we were.
Depending on how many questions you guys end up having, this may have to be a standalone.
It very well may anyway, depending, because even the thing we just did, which seems obvious, I think, to this group about electronic meeting, I don't need to remind everyone that there was a not dissimilar question about this that actually turned out to be controversial last charter. I mean, you don't really know what's going to grab people's attention. So today's the 27th. Would we like to schedule, as we're sort of moving in for May? Do you want to do meetings back to back? So would you like to do the 11th and the 18th, and then not the 25th? Would you rather do the 11th and the 25th? How do you?
I can't be here the 11th. I'm going to be in Hawaii. Sorry, I'm not going to come to the meeting.
Oh, no.
Vacation.
You're totally going to dial in from Hawaii.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
Well, if I do, I'll have a Mai Tai in my hand, and that might be a little dangerous then.
So I feel the town should then send us to Hawaii for the sake of this important meeting. That sounds excellent. But in return, we won't use IRA. So well, in that case, would you guys like to do the 4th and 18th for the month of May? Does that work for everybody?
Fine with me.
I actually can't do the 4th.
So I feel then the 4th and the 11th are out.
Can remember, Lauren, is there going to be training for people to do the Zoom meetings?
So, I mean, you're happy to meet, but I don't know if I can get you somebody who can do screen share and update documents and
Lauren,
like that.
I'd be reticent not to meet. Having the discussions we've been having, I think you're really invaluable to that conversation, particularly since it's your document we'd be going through.
Okay.
Would you
we
guys
could still meet that week on a different day?
Yeah.
How is everyone feeling on Cinco de Mayo? I recommend we be festive.
I'm fine with it.
Would that be okay?
Fine with me.
As long as at the end we can have our drink.
So Joe, just repeat that again. So on the 5th of May and
then return to the 18th for our Tuesday. So
I won't be available on the 5th, but that's okay. I mean, there's I can get caught up.
I mean, you guys can still do the 11th. I'm
Well,
perfect.
what about Thursday? Thursday,
Yeah.
the 6th.
Thursday's
The 6th works for me.
Thursday's great for me. The other days aren't really, but Thursday's great. The 6th.
So
Yeah,
how
I
about
can do the 6th.
I can do the 6th. Lauren, are you okay with the 6th?
Thursdays at 5 are fantastic times for me.
well, in that
That
case,
case.
Well, we have no choice.
that I feel that we are now compelled. Would we? So just to follow it through, would we like to do the 6th and let me check my own schedule and make sure I'm not committing to something. Yeah, would we like to do the 6th and the 20th then? Would those Thursdays work better for everybody?
I'm okay.
Fine with me.
That's good.
It's
Lauren,
better.
do we
No,
have a problem?
I can't do the 20th, but that's okay. I mean, I can.
Then how about we go back to the 6th and the 18th?
18th's good.
All right, 6 and 18 it is. Lauren, would you mind sending out the calendar invites and links and stuff?
Doing it right now.
All right, everybody play those numbers, 6 and 18.
Excellent. So I want to be clear on the 18th. I want to spend the first couple of minutes. Joan, you'll be doing the slideshow from Hawaii. That'll be spectacular. And
Okay.
that's how we'll open the event. Okay.
Yeah, hopefully I'll
Looking
be tanned
forward.
and not burned.
Be careful.
Sunscreen.
Sunblock, a lot of sunblock, trust me.
Yep.
When you're colored like I am, there is no amount of sunblock that is safe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
my Italian does come out every now and then. The Irish really kind of pushes us down for the skin stuff.
I looked actually better on Zoom. Normally I'm just a ghost. So is it okay then? I'm assuming that for both those meetings in terms of content, we should just be doing this. Because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
this
tonight-
takes us a
tonight-
while.
Tonight was fantastic. It was really good progression.
Agreed.
All
May
right,
I
so
just suggest, maybe, I know, Bob, you're very interested with the whole town, what was the
Representative town meeting.
oh,
Yeah, the
representative town
RTM.
meeting, and I know Brantford has it, and they have
We should talk
10,000.
with them.
But would you like to do a little
I'll do
investigation
some.
into it?
Yeah. I have a good friend who lives there, actually. I can, anyway.
So
They're
my,
bigger than we are, but they're not, it's 10,000, not 40,000 more.
yeah.
Right.
So my thought is I'd like to reserve time so it's just us going through the document until we get to the end. And then, I think bring in Brantford. I would very much like to bring in, we talked about a town that has a town manager and then a town that changed from town manager. At least bring a couple in. I know we've talked to people who also did that work, but I think it's incumbent upon us just to, talk to those two groups and then have a conversation among us and see what else we want.
I
And,
can get the mayor of Stratford.
yeah.
That's my hometown, and she's a friend, and I know, I've spoken to her about it, but I know she would do it for us. Just
And-
just give us a time.
And I think I'd mentioned Professor Peter Kotchenberger's on Mansfield's group, and he could bring in either their mayor or their manager. I've talked with him about it. And my thought is talk to one of each, get a sense, and then see where we are if we want more exploration. Or maybe that's the time where we start to break up and put a couple of people on RTMs and a couple of people on town manager, and we've done a little diligence on our own.
If you could give us some ideas on dates, Joe, on possible potential dates, we call these people, just give them some options. That may help.
I'd recommend, why don't we see where we are on the 18th? Because I think we might be in this mode for a little while.
Okay.
And my feeling is I'll feel a lot better about this whole enterprise when we've been through the document once. Because even
Okay.
when we're done, we're going to have language that's out there. I'm happy to do it anyway, but that's my thinking on it.
Can I just interject really quickly too about meetings going forward? So with the governor's executive order expiring on the 19th of May, the town is looking to restart in-person meetings. We are looking into hybrid options, but right now that's kind of cumbersome because we only have one room that's set up for hybrid meeting style. So I just want to make you guys aware that at some point we may be asking you to come back either partially or fully, and that would be in June.
Is it mandatory, Lauren, or is this just
Good.
we're gonna allow as we want to do it?
That's what we're trying to determine. We're trying to get a little more guidance from the state, a little more guidance from DPH on what we have to do, only because right now FOIA requirements are they're relaxed because of the executive orders. When the executive order goes away, technically state statute and FOIA says meetings are in person, period.
Mhm.
So we're just trying to get some more clarification and come up with a plan that is happy for everyone.
So just to remind everyone, even before these times, there was an ability to hold an electronic meeting or to hold a hybrid one where somebody, at least a speakerphone or a camera, is available so people can participate, but the members could be remote. But well, it's good then we're meeting on the 18th, because then the next day you can figure everything out for us, Lauren, and that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
And let's see where we all are personally. I mean, nobody should do anything they're uncomfortable with.
Exactly.
While it is charter review, it's only charter review.
But I think this, this is
Yeah.
my first, and maybe most of us are experienced with doing week after week like this, and I think it's been excellent this way. Very comfortable, and I think we're getting a lot done.
Actually, to be honest, I think doing the document review like this is vastly superior than anything we would do at a table. We'd be sitting with the laptop up on the screen and squinting at it, and this is really much better.
Well, we have pretty big screens now in all the conference
Yep.
rooms. So
So,
Still not enticing.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
There's a bowl of candy too.
yeah.
No, it's the happy hour after the meeting that we have to be
After the meeting,
focused
yeah.
on. Okay.
That'd be better. That's what we could do.
All right. Well, so in the meantime, we've got our 2 meeting dates, and we'll just keep doing the sort of the direct march, and we'll see how far we get in those 2 sessions. And is the 90-minute time frame comfortable for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Assume that.
Good. Then thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Have a good week,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Do we have?
Meeting.
Well, hold on. Do we have any other members of the public? Lauren,
we have one member of the public. They did not have their hand raised.
is that still true?
That's Jennifer.
Still, yeah, still true.
Okay. All right. In that case, if we can adjourn by acclaim, I will see you guys next time.
Great. Claim.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Take
Have a
care,
good meeting.
everybody.
Everybody.
Bye.